am 5'6", which means I'm taller than the average Viking man who was 5'5". Or at least that's what I thought. I posted this meme saying that at 5'6" and 3/4, but who's counting, I am taller than the average Viking man who was 5'5". And the internet did not care for that. The internet did not care for that at all. I got all these replies saying that no, the average Viking man was 5'7", not 5'5", like my meme claimed. So I Googled it. And Google came back with the 5'7" number as well. But I could have sworn I read 5'5" in this book, The Last Viking, The True Story of King Harald Hardrada by Don Hollway. I read this in audiobook and I was so obsessed with it that I had ordered a physical copy. But my physical copy hadn't arrived yet and I couldn't fact check it. But I hate being wrong, especially on the internet. And it was driving me absolutely crazy. So I emailed the author like a sane person. And I reached out and I was like, hey, I thought I read this in your book, but Google's telling me something different. Like, do you have a more recent source? Or like, did I misunderstand? And Don Hollway, the author of this book, replied within like an hour with very extensive citations. He was very kind about it, but he did tell me that I did misunderstand. The actual quote in the book is averaging a little over 5.5 feet tall. When he did his own calculations based on Viking age skeletons, the average male height was around 5'7". If we don't count the Swedes, like the Swedes were a little bit taller, but in general, yes, 5'7", which means I am not taller than the average Viking man. I am the average Viking man. But then Don was like, hey, would you like to buy a signed copy of my latest book about the Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans fighting over England? And I was like, I would indeed like to buy a signed copy of your latest book about the Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans fighting over England. So now I have a signed book! Check it out right there. And I got to thinking, like, hey, you know a lot of things about the Vikings. I want to know a lot of things about the Vikings. Would you be up for an interview on my YouTube channel? And Don said yes! I've never done this before, but we're planning an interview for next month. I'm like halfway through this book, Battle for the Island Kingdom, and taking notes along the way. But if there's anything you've ever wanted to know about Viking battle tactics, the North Sea Empire, the Varangian Guard, or like anything in this general era, or anything else about his books of the late Viking period. In particular, I'm very excited to talk to Don a little bit more about Harald Hardrada and also Svein Forkbeard, who are both inspirations for a character in my upcoming Viking-inspired fantasy series. Please drop any questions you have for Don below. I will be vetting the questions, but I would like to include at least a few from y'all. I'm so excited, and I hope you are too!